Two guys and a gal talking about movies. Two guys and a gal talking about movies. Two guys and a gal, they're talking about movies. And you know they are really groovy. Two guys and a gal talking about movies. Two guys and a gal talking about movies. Two guys and a gal, they're talking about movies. And we know they are really groovy.
Yes, we are really groovy.
I just noticed that popcorn was like caramel popcorn. Do they serve that in the movie theaters?
I'm sure they do.
I mean, I know they do sweet popcorn in Asia.
Yeah.
And they'll do salty popcorn in most of U.S., but wasn't sure if they did caramel popcorn in the movie theaters or not.
I don't know. It's been a long time since I've been to the theaters.
Sneak in a box of fiddle faddle.
Right. Welcome to another episode of Two Guys and Sometimes a Gal talking about movies. And tonight we're talking about bondage.
Kind of.
Yeah. Right?
We're talking about Scottishmen.
Oh.
Yes, this show is Manny's baby. He gets top billing by gosh. And sometimes we have a gal named Renee that pops in.
Yeah.
And helps us.
We're talking about, what are we talking? James
But
Bond?
not this second, I guess.
Man, I shouldn't have put on the leather underwear then.
Well, I put on my leather underwear.
There
What are you
she-
talking about? So I'm the only person wearing leather underwear, guys?
No, I've got my leather
No,
underwear.
I didn't chime in on whether or not I had leather underwear on or not.
Okay, well, somebody's got to
We're
have
talking
leather
about-
underwear
we're
on.
talking
I
about
can't
bondage. So
I can't be doing this all by myself. And I got the whip, and I got the chains, and I got the whole bench thing. You
yeah.
can't leave
The
me
whole
out there all
bench
by
thing.
myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you call it? You call it the bond bench. The bond
You don't use a
bench.
swing?
The swing needs to be attached, okay? One of you guys has to attach it. Why do I got to do everything?
All right, swing it
All
this
right.
way.
All right.
Yes, sometimes Renee is known as Mistress Helga.
Sometimes. And sometimes Mistress Olga. It
And
depends what
sometimes
mood I'm in.
Mistress
Olga.
Olga.
So,
Yeah.
From
but
I
we're
run
not
a-
going to talk about that.
I run a tight ship, you know. So anyway, some bondage.
And she pops right out.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're going to talk about the early James Bond films.
that's right.
You told me a couple of days ago that you saw the very first James Bond story, which was Casino Royale on the TV show Climax with Barry Nelson, of all people, playing Jimmy Bond, young American James Bond, and Felix Leiter was played by Michael Pate. And he was British, and he was teaching Bond how to play baccarat.
Yeah, no, actually, Nelson was teaching him how to play baccarat, but it was basically a cover for their conversation. And Peter Lorre, good old Peter Lorre.
Peter Lorre was the first James Bond villain, Le Chiffre.
Le Chiffre, that's
Oh,
right.
excruciating, isn't it, Mr. Bond?
Yeah,
And it was television.
it was television, and there was still torture, and
It was like 1958.
1954. 1954.
Really? Was it that early? Wow,
Yeah.
1954.
1 year
Jeez.
after Casino Royale was published.
Wow.
CBS came calling and bought the rights to the movie or the book.
They saw right away that it was something
yeah.
worthwhile.
And they turned it into basically an episode of a TV show.
Yeah, Climax.
Well, actually, in 1958, they came back to Fleming and said, "Hey, you know what? We want to make a TV series out of your little James Bond character." And Fleming said, "Yeah, okay."
There he is.
And there's Mr. Fleming himself,
The dog.
who was he was a British, he was a naval intelligence officer, so he knew a little bit about spy business.
Right, what you know.
Exactly, right, what you know. And so they came to him and said, we want to make a TV show, and would you write some stories for us or outlines for scripts? And he said, sure. And he wrote about 3 or 4 of them. But then for some reason, the network changed their mind, dropped the whole project. And so he decided to turn the short stories into, turn the outlines into short stories that were later collected in a book. Fleming wrote 12 James Bond books. Two of them were published posthumously. And he
that was probably From a View to a Kill.
Yeah, I think so.
Right, was the book that had the short stories in it, and it had Octopussy and
several others that were later turned into movies. The
Hildebrand Rarity,
yeah,
which is the only short story I think that has. Well, there was James Bond in New York that came later. It was an article I think in Playboy.
Right.
Those are the only two stories that haven't been turned into movies.
Yeah. But so Fleming himself passed away in 1964.
Yeah.
But he did get to see at least a couple of the movies made into, or a couple of his books made into movies.
Right.
And
he got to see the success of From Russia with Love, Dr. No and From Russia with Love,
right?
The first two, and was watching this, what they were doing with Goldfinger before he passed away.
Exactly,
passed away from cancer.
Yeah.
The name James Bond is actually an ornithologist, a bird guy. He said to an interviewer one time, it's one of my Bibles right here. It's James Bond's Birds of the West Indies. And I said, oh, now James Bond, that's pretty simple, that's suave. So I just simply stole it and used it.
Yeah. The rest is history.
So
the original name that he wanted to use was Thomas Whistlebottom. So it's a joke.
Okay.
That's a joke. Yes, Whistlebottom.
Thomas, very British.
Thomas Whistlebottom. Yeah, no, that wouldn't have worked.
He did do crazy names like that with the girls,
Oh yeah. It was all
Kissy Suzuki.
And we'll get to one of my favorite ones here in a minute. But he gave all these cute little double entendre names.
My favorite one is a movie we're going to talk about tonight, A Plenty O'Toole.
Yes.
She says at the table in Las Vegas, she says, "I'm Plenty." He says, "But of course you are." She says, "No, Plenty O'Toole, named after your father, perhaps." Connery doesn't lose a beat. He's there.
Oh, yeah. All right, so we get to it.
Yeah, the first one. First off, Harry Saltzman and who was a producer at the time, and Albert Cubby Broccoli got together and they decided to buy Fleming's books,
right?
What he had so far, and they formed a company called Eon Productions, and they decided to do Dr. No first,
right.
Which was the book that I believe he had just finished at that time.
Like the fifth one.
They figured, we'll do the one that's fresh and hot now, and then we'll go back and do the others later.
Right.
They couldn't do Casino Royale, which was the first one, because the rights belonged again to somebody else who had bought it for that TV show, and then they sold it later to somebody else who turned it into a comedy with Peter Sellers and David Niven in the late '60s, which came out around the time You Only Live Twice came out.
Right.
And then it was eventually it ended up with Jack Schwartzman. Who was a legal representative for Hollywood types, and he took it and he was going to turn it. Oh no, I'm so sorry. That was Thunderball. Thunderball ended up going to Jack Schwartzman because, and again, we'll talk about that a little later when we start talking about Thunderball. Kevin McClory wrote that story with Ian Fleming,
right?
And eventually became an executive producer on that, what ended up as being that movie. And then he retained the rights. He fought for it and retained the rights to it, and then he sold it to Jack Schwartzman. Yeah. Anyway, so Dr. No was the first one. They had to find somebody to play James Bond who's supposed to look like Hoagie Carmichael.
Right, yeah.
And it was, I can't remember whose wife it was. I think it was Harry Saltzman's wife who had seen Sean Connery in Darby O'Gill and the Little People. And she was like, there's a nice tall glass of water. So she brought it to the attention of her husband, and they brought him in, and they just really liked him right off the bat.
Yeah.
So Connery got it. They wanted somebody who wasn't, a superstar to
Right.
play the James Bond character.
Well, actually, originally they wanted they were talking to Cary Grant to play Bond, but he turned it down. He said, no, he didn't want to commit to a whole series of movies. And he wanted.
My name is Bond, James Bond.
Yeah. So there were several other actors that they were looking at, but yeah, once they saw Connery, it's like, yeah, this is the guy, this is the dude.
Yeah, he's the one.
He's the one.
And they were right. I mean, there are a lot of people today that still think Connery is the best Bond.
Yeah, and
I'm one of them.
I'm one of them. Exactly, me too.
So Dr. No, filmed in the Bahamas, which is Ian Fleming's stomping grounds.
Right.
He loved the Bahamas. He loved Nassau, and he loved. He's got his property there called Goldeneye, which later became the title of one of the movies.
Right. Yeah.
Where is that? I don't want to say Nassau.
I don't remember. It's somewhere in Jamaica.
It's in Jamaica.
It is.
Don't know the exact location just yet, but it's in Jamaica.
Somewhere in Jamaica.
So yeah, the focus of the movie is on toppling the rockets that are going up into space, and it's Spectre. It's is what's doing it,
right,
and trying to cause all kinds of mayhem with the world scene. Spectre, by definition, is the Special Executives for Counterintelligence, Terrorism, Revenge, and Extortion.
Yes.
And their operative, Dr. No, who is part Asian, part Jewish, is surprisingly played by Joseph Weissman.
Right.
In this. And he does a good job. I mean, he's a nice, menacing villain.
Yeah.
And the formula for Bond hadn't really been developed yet with this one.
Right. Yeah. They're just starting out.
But luckily, when they came out of the gate, they had a lot of what they were going to end up doing for the next several films. They had Maurice Binder doing titles for the movies.
Oh, yeah.
He hadn't quite got the feel of what he wanted to do with it yet. But even so, his opening credit with the dots and the Jamaican dancers and stuff like that was interesting.
Yeah.
The music by Monty Norman was standard fare.
Yeah.
And a lot of people still give him credit for creating the James Bond theme, and it's not true. It was John Barry that was brought in with the John Barry 5 to create the theme song for James Bond. He created the Bond theme.
Yeah.
And that's what stuck. That's what everybody remembered.
Yeah.
So when From Russia with Love came around, the second movie, he was given the job of doing all of the music for From Russia with Love. Yeah. And a match made in heaven. John Barry
I know.
and his music for the Bond films.
Yeah.
And his music that went on to win Academy Awards for, Born Free, The Lion in Winter, Midnight Cowboy. I mean, it's just so many different wonderful music for different movies other than James Bond, which he does a wonderful job with the James Bond.
Oh yeah.
The first Bond, well, not the first Bond girl, that was Eunice Gayson, who came back for the second one for a cameo. But Ursula Andress. Yes.
Honey Ryder.
She's playing Honey Ryder in the movie.
Yep.
And that's that iconic scene where she comes out of the water singing Underneath the Mango Tree, and then she goes for her knife. That swimsuit.
Yeah.
We get to hear Connery sing at that point.
Yes. Yeah.
Underneath the mango tree. They never did that again.
Yeah.
That was bad. Note to self. Bad.
Do not let
him sing. Don't let our cool, super cool ass secret agent sing.
And I didn't, we were doing some research. I was doing research on this.
Yeah, I didn't do any
know.
research.
I didn't know that they had that wasn't Ursula Andress. That they dubbed her. They overdubbed her.
They did that with a lot of the Bond girls.
Yeah,
A lot of the Bond girls got dubbed. I mean, right on up to I've seen the original scene in the trailer,
mm-hmm.
and then the redub in the movie. Timothy Dalton, The Living Daylights.
Living Daylights, yeah.
There's a woman that he meets at the very beginning of the movie before the credits.
Mm-hmm.
She's on a boat. Oh, Marco, it's so boring here. Only nothing but tennis pros. And he comes in, and then in the movie, or no, she had a very kind of dark voice. That's what it was. She has a kind of a deep voice.
Mm-hmm.
If only I could meet a real man. And then they dubbed her over with this like French accent, and this, oh, Marco.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they do that a lot with the Bond girls.
Yeah.
Danielle Bianchi in From Russia with Love was dubbed.
Right. Yeah.
Because she sounded, I guess, too Italian, not Russian enough.
Yeah. And they used the same. They used the same woman to dub all their voices. Nikki Vanderlyn, I believe her name was. Oh, did we lose Rory?
Sorry about that.
No problem.
It's somebody when somebody calls me, it's usually a spam. It's usually a spam caller,
Right. Yeah.
It's a number I don't recognize.
Do not disturb. Put on the do not disturb.
I can't anymore. I used to be able to do that feature,
no.
but now I can't. There's for some reason that feature is not on my phone anymore.
Are you serious? Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
I used to be able to do that.
Okay. Well, I wanted to show you guys that I have my pleather. This is not leather, but it's pleather. So I was ready to go. So just for the record, just to get.
And that's why.
What are your feelings on Dr. No?
Me? Or...
I don't have any feelings. No, I don't have any feelings.
Well,
overdubbing I do have opinions about overdubbing all the Bond girls. I thought that was very interesting. When you talked about that, I think there's definitely something else at play there that's going on, but I'm going to look into it before I say anything. But that was something that was common, particularly in that era. And why are you laughing, Rory? I see you laughing. Okay,
I'm just nodding like I usually do.
Okay. Yeah, I know. This is the TikTok. Yeah. Did you notice that the TikTok is you talking now? It's like all you talking now. You see, I fixed it. You have to look at the dates. Anyways, I'm going to get out of here.
I'm looking at gift. Yeah. I'm not looking at gift horse in the mouth. I appreciate having some time actually chatting.
All right.
On TikTok. That's nice.
Yeah, it's very nice. Okay, continue. Doc.
In the book, Dr. No has metal hooks. He has like hook pinchers.
Right.
And he has glass or he taps his eyes. He's got like metal eyes or glass eyes or something like that. Yeah. And he's buried by bat guano or bird guano.
Right.
Maybe it's bat guano. He's just buried at the end. Bond dumps a big, huge vat of poop on him.
Yeah. They changed a lot of elements from the book to the movie. He falls.
Well, he does have hands that are obviously mechanical, but they've got him gloved. Yeah, that was probably a budgeting thing.
Yeah. The first Bond movie was not the big budget affair that it became. Because they didn't know how it was going to go. They didn't know if it was going to be a hit or not. So they were like.
But surprisingly, some of the sets by Ken Adams, it looked really big and huge and impressive. And but other ways they probably cut the budget. They
right, yeah,
kept the budget down.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and move on to From Russia with Love. Obviously, they had a hit. They decided to make a sequel.
Right.
By that time, President John F. Kennedy said that From Russia with Love was one of his favorite books. It was in his top 10. And that really was what caused the huge fervor of people going to Bond and looking for Bond.
Right. Yeah.
So they decided to do From Russia with Love next, because that's the one that everyone was talking about at the time.
Right. Yeah. It came out in
So it was 1963.
63. Right. Yeah.
Again, the Cold War was in full swing at that time.
Right.
With Nikita Khrushchev and banging his shoe at the UN building.
Right. Yeah.
So, again, one of the most beautiful, in my opinion, James Bond girls, Daniela Bianchi.
Oh yeah.
As juxtaposed to Rosa Klebb.
Rosa Klebb, played by
from Schmersh, now Spectre.
Yeah.
One of the things I really liked about this film was the planner, the guy who is the chess pro,
right?
Who Spectre hired as a planner for their operations, and how throwing Bond into the mix was a mistake. they underestimated him, which they end up killing the planner. Because of that. Spoilers. It's also the first film where we have Walter Gotell, who's a character actor. He's playing a Spectre commandant, or one of the guys that's in charge. He's the one that shows Rosa Klebb around the Spectre camp in the movie, and introduces her to Red Grant, who's a psychopath.
Yeah,
they hope he's going to kill Bond.
Right.
Robert Shaw.
Yeah. Captain Quint.
Gotell would end up coming back into the Bond movies in the 70s and playing the Russian general Orlov. Not Orlov.
No, it was
Gogol.
Yeah.
But he's killed. And From Russia with Love is this character with the boat guys when in this really spectacular scene where they blow up the several boats with the tanks of gasoline and the flare gun.
Yeah, you can tell that the budget had been increased. There was a little bit more money. Yes. The action scenes were bigger. You're in a foreign location. You're in Istanbul.
Right.
So, there's that Cold War tension. There's that great scene in the train where Red is trying to kill Bond. He's got the garrote in the watch.
Red riding with fish.
Really. So more so than Russia with Love. Than Dr. No. Russia with Love. You start really seeing. They start really adding more of those elements that would become, standard for the Bond movies going forward.
In this one, they added the gadgets, the suitcase with all the gadgets and the folding sniper rifle. And this was another very key element to the Bond films from then on, was they had to throw some cool gadgets in there to keep the audience.
Yeah, well, I want to mention that besides Bond, besides Sean Connery in this time period, there were three other actors that were. Sorry, there's a fly.
I know one of them you're going to mention.
There were three actors who would continue throughout the series, and some even past Connery. And of course, that's Louise Maxwell as Miss Moneypenny, the lovelorn Miss Moneypenny, and Bernard Lee as M, and Desmond Llewellyn as Q. Now they had a different guy at the beginning in Dr. No, Major Booth.
Right.
No, I forget his name now. But
Major Boothroyd.
Boothroyd, right.
Yeah.
But starting with From Russia with Love, you had Llewellyn playing Q, who would continue.
Well, and I don't think they call him Q in that until Goldfinger.
Right.
But he does say Q branch, I think.
Yeah,
from Q branch.
Yeah.
Our technical. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. But then they started calling him Q after that. Right.
Can we really call them spoilers decades later? Yeah, I guess you got a point there. Everybody's seen these movies already. I thought you were going to mention Pedro Armendariz.
I was just about to mention, actually, Pedro Armendariz.
Yeah.
Very well respected, well known Mexican.
Karen Bay.
Karen Bay, yeah, the Turkish liaison. Wonderful actor. He's with the, he had that eyebrow that that was so prominent.
Blofeld is in the film, but you don't see him. He's the one with the cat, and he's feeding the fish, the fighting fish to his cat, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
But he was actually played by Anthony Dawson, who was the double crossing guy in Dr. No, who gets shot like multiple times by Connery in a really brutal scene.
Yeah.
Where you get to see Connery's 00 in action.
Right.
I mean, he shoots him, he falls to the floor, and then he shoots him 3 or 4 times in the back just to make sure. Double tap. But he's actually playing Blofeld in that film in Thunderball.
Yeah.
You just don't see his face.
Yeah.
I can't remember where I read that, but they said he was the one that. And the voice is character actor Eric Pullman, who's big guy. The only movie that I can think of where you can actually see Eric Pullman is the Pink Panther Returns, where he plays kind of like a Sidney Greenstreet kind of character.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, but yeah, you said it last week, I think, when you said the films are only as good as their villains, and Lotte Lenya as Rosa Klebb, and Robert Shaw as Red Grant they are an awesome duo of evil.
Oh yeah. Well, Shaw had that. I mean, he looked like the Terminator, like an early version of the Terminator. He was just like, and you see him shirtless, and he's got the
the brass knuckles to the gut,
brass knuckles, and and of course Rosa had the shoe knife, the
spike in the shoe.
Which
I loved it in Jethro Bodine on the Beverly Hillbillies was trying to do the shoe, and the spike was always in backwards. He was always cutting his own feet up.
Yes.
I'll put it in backwards. Alan Smarts. Goldfinger. Goldfinger.
No, I gotta say, Goldfinger. I thought we were going to do a top 5 list, but okay. Goldfinger.
There's only 8 movies we can talk about here. So.
Goldfinger is at the top of my list as far as James Bond. To me, it's the quintessential Bond.
This is when Bond became completely Bond. It's like when Jason puts on the hockey mask, he becomes Jason.
Exactly.
This was it.
Exactly. Yes.
This is the way it was going to be for the next 20 years.
Right. From Russia with Love kind of started it, but it was still basically an espionage plot.
Still wasn't completely there yet.
It wasn't completely there yet, but now with Goldfinger, we've got the supervillain, we've got the evil scheme, we've got the Bond girls, who and to me, Gert Frobe, who plays Goldfinger, just nailed it. I mean, he is, again, the quintessential Bond villain as well. And one of the reasons
loved working with him. So much so that they thought about bringing him back for Diamonds Are Forever.
Yeah, and I kind of, almost wish they had. But no, one of the reasons that I think he is probably one of the best villains in the whole series is his scheme. His plot, his evil plot, is so simple and yet so it's almost like
it's inspired Goldfinger.
Yeah. He plans to rob well, you think he's planning to rob Fort Knox, but actually his plot is to irradiate it so his stock of gold goes up, and now people have to come to him for the gold.
Goes up 15 times.
Right. And it's just, it's like, okay, I can relate to that. I can, it's understandable. It's not this overly complicated, no. It's like very straightforward. And we were talking about the girls with the names, and pussy galore. best name ever. Played by the wonderful
I Must Be Dreaming.
I Must Be Dreaming. Pushy. Yeah. And just as a side note, Honor Blackman was originally on a show called The Avengers.
The Avengers.
Not the superheroes, but The Avengers, which was also kind of
right. Patrick McNee.
Patrick McNee.
Very British.
Very British, yeah. And she was one of the first.
Dun, 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 dun. And Diana Rigg, who was Miss Peel on that show.
Yes.
The follow-up to Honor Blackman ended up marrying Bond in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which we're going to talk about in a minute.
So, and Patrick McNee would also have a role in a Bond movie later on as well. So, so all the, most of the major cast of the Avengers wound up in James Bond.
Well, and Joanna Lumley, who was on the Return of the Avengers in the 70s, and who went on to do absolutely fabulous and a zillion other great roles in different things.
Right. Yeah.
She's in On Her Majesty's Secret Service as one of the girls at Peace Gloria.
Yeah. So, so there you go.
So yeah, again, it's British casting. Yeah, everybody's going to be in a Harry Potter film somewhere. Yeah, everybody's going to be in a Bond film somewhere.
Oh, we forgot to mention. We forgot to mention in Dr. No, we were introduced to the American agent Felix Leiter, who's played by Jack Lord.
Yes. Jack Lord
to play McGarrett in Hawaii Five-0 with the fabulous immobile hair.
There you go.
With the fabulous.
You see the wave at the beginning of the show, and you see the wave in his hair the rest of the show.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's funny. Leiter ended up being played by a different person in just about every movie. Sek Linder played him in Goldfinger. The one who played him in Thunderball is the closest to the book Leiter. He's supposed to be a Texan. He's supposed to be tall and lanky like Clint Eastwood with blonde hair. And I can't remember the actor's name now, who played him in that. But Rick Nutter, maybe. But he's the closest one to what Felix Leiter is supposed to really be like. Then David Hedison played it in Live and Let Die.
Yeah.
And he's the only one to return and play Leiter a second time in the Eon production films.
Right. Yeah.
Well, until
Jeffrey Wright.
Until
Jeffrey Wright came back.
Until Jeffrey Wright took it over, and then he played it in like all of the films that
Daniel Craig ones.
Daniel Craig.
We're getting ahead of ourselves.
In any case, so Thunderball.
Yes.
Yeah. Bigger, better. Again, they just kept upping the I mean, they made more and more money each time, and they kept upping the the budget and the effects and the craziness. And Thunderball is a really long film. Even by Bond standards, they usually go over 2 hours.
Yeah.
But Thunderball is like 2 hours and 45 minutes. I think it's a long one.
Yeah.
But it kind of flies by. There's a lot of good stuff in it.
Yeah.
People complain about it being too long, but they say, oh, it could have been trimmed down. But I mean, I really like Thunderball. Like you say, I like the plot. The stealing the 2 atomic bombs.
Right. Yeah.
And again, Kevin McClory, who helped Fleming write the screenplay, which later Fleming wrote as a book.
Yeah.
As one of the Bond books.
Yeah.
And then after this movie, they kind of shut McClory out. And he's like, well, hey, I thought I was part of the team. So he sued him.
Yeah.
And he got the rights to Thunderball, which he tried to turn into another movie called Warhead.
Yeah.
And Connery later got involved, and they changed it to Never Say Never Again.
Yeah.
So that's why you get the same plot, basically. Never Say Never Again that you got in Thunderball.
And I have to admit, personally, I actually prefer Never Say Never Again over Thunderball. I like the cast better.
It's more camp. It's more tongue-in-cheek.
A little bit more camp, a little bit more tongue-in-cheek. But the interesting thing to me is seeing Connery come back as Bond, and this was 12 years after the last one he did, which was Was There Forever. And yeah, he looked a little older. But they incorporated that into the plot of the story. That this is an older. He's older. Does he still have the right stuff? And
he still got it.
Yes. And it has a great another one of my favorite lines, where he talks to Miss Moneypenny, and he says, "Yes, I am to kill all free radicals."
Eliminate all
James,
free radicals.
Eliminate all free radicals. And, James, be careful.
Be careful.
And then the only thing to me that I kind of didn't like about that movie, though, is Edward Fox as M. He was a little too supercilious and too. I mean, I like Edward Fox as an actor, but he was wrong for M. He's a little too officious, a little too, and I guess maybe because I miss the kind of more paternal version that Bernard Lee did as M. But
yeah, I was afraid you were going to say Rowan Atkinson.
Oh no! I love Rowan Atkinson.
Nigel Smallbone.
Yes,
that script was written by Lorenzo Semple Jr., who's involved with Batman, the TV show. Right. So you talk about camp and knowing camp.
Yeah, there were so many screenwriters who came in, but they finally, Semple finally was able to knock it out and produce a script that they actually wanted to shoot. But yeah, and it introduced Kim Basinger. This was her first movie as Domino, and Barbara Carrera as Fatima Blush.
She was Fatima Blush. What I really liked about it the best, though, was Klaus Maria Brander as Max Largo.
Yes.
He was, when he comes into work, he's saying hi to everybody and he's all happy and everything. It's so different from every other Bond villain that comes in. He's not in the Nehru jacket with the cat,
Right.
He's a regular guy and he's hip and he's, It's not until we do the video game thing where we actually kind of see how psychotic he really is.
Right. Exactly. And
when
you see
the
real
fighting Bond for the world.
Right. Yeah. But
all right, so let's go back.
Yeah. Okay.
To You Only Live Twice. I wanted to talk about those two together because yes, they are the same movie basically. They just changed the cast.
Yeah.
And again, it's Connery, like you said, 12 years later after Diamonds Are Forever. So You Only Live Twice.
Only Live Twice.
Connery's decided I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And he's not wearing his toupee to like news press junkets. And he's just like, I want to do other things. I'm an actor.
I don't want to be typecast as Bond.
I'm tired of it. He's just being blunt and bold. And one of the amazing stories about this is two actresses that I really love are Kiko Wakabayashi and Mai Hama, who starred in a lot of the Godzilla films, and the Toho films back in the 60s.
Right.
So they were popular in Tokyo at the time, and they were given the parts in this movie.
Right. Yeah. Aki Suzuki.
Yeah, Kissy Suzuki and what later becomes Aki, because they had to switch the actresses.
Right.
Because Kissy Suzuki doesn't have a lot of dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, Maya Hama couldn't really speak English very well.
Right.
Again, I think she got dubbed. And Akiko Wakabayashi evidently did take well to the English, and she could speak, and they didn't dub her. That was her voice, and but they had to switch it because Mai Hama was going to jump into a volcano. She was going to kill herself because she felt she'd shamed her family, because they were going to fire her.
Yeah.
And then they said, well, why don't we switch them? And give her the one that's actually the Bond girl, the better character, even though she has less dialogue. And we'll let Akiko Wakabayashi play this character, and we'll call her Aki.
Right.
And so that's what happened.
Yeah.
And it saved Mai Hama's life.
Yeah. And, it's interesting to note that in the book, she plays a little bit bigger role in the book. And you know, and there's
She
another
ends up having Bond's
story.
son, I think.
Yes,
doesn't
she
she?
winds up getting pregnant, and
Yeah.
you know, she doesn't tell Bond, and yeah, she has a son by him. Yeah,
This was where they actually really started to get far away from what Fleming wrote,
yeah,
and just started doing full rewrites. This movie is so different because they got Roald Dahl,
yes,
the children's writer, to write the
yeah,
script,
that's right.
because he does a lot of great adult fiction as well. You know, not just Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and James and the Giant Peach.
Yeah, yeah,
He does great adult fiction as well. So yeah, it is a very interesting script.
yeah.
And
It's
again,
funny.
with the whole volcano
Yeah,
turning into a base thing, which is amazing.
yeah. And I think
You have Little Nelly. Anything that they would see in the news that they thought they could plug into Bond, they would do it. They
right.
saw this little guy with this little gyrocopter, so Little Nelly is born.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think this is the first time that we really see a villain in his giant lair. You know, the volcano. I mean, at that great scene where it opens up and you see all the, you know, the ninjas coming down and taking out the henchmen and all that stuff. I mean, it's really cool. And of course, that's been parodied, you know, now.
Yeah, well, Donald Pleasance,
And
who would later go on to Halloween fame, had been in Fantastic Voyage,
right, yeah,
and Will Penny, and he was doing several films at the time that were noteworthy, and he ended up getting the first Blofeld that we actually get to see, and they decided to do something to gnarly his face up. They put a nice big scar through his eye.
Yeah, yeah,
After that movie, it was gone. Blofeld found a way to get rid of it.
yeah.
He's Telly Savalas on Her Majesty's Secret Service, completely clean face, and then he's got hair. In Time's Up Forever.
Yeah.
So, interesting switches, interesting changes. By that time, by Time's Over there, we don't care.
Yeah.
But it was supposed to be a Goldfinger brother.
Yeah.
Again, was the original idea from Tom Mankiewicz, the writer. He was going to bring Goldfinger back, but as his twin brother. And there was going to be a big fight at the Hoover Dam and off of Las Vegas. And anyway, didn't happen, and we got Blofeld.
Yeah.
And it makes sense because he's just killed Bond's wife.
Right. Yeah.
And let's talk about that. On Her Majesty's Secret Service. They try to get Connery to come back. He won't come back.
Mm-hmm.
So they have this big search for another actor.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was like 8 actors that were, called in to read for the role, and a commercial actor from Australia,
Mm-hmm.
George Lazenby, wins the Bond audition by bloodying the nose of the stuntman in a fight scene. And you got to admit, the fight scenes in that movie are, man, off the chain.
Yeah.
Just brutal.
Yeah.
So the guy knows how to fight.
Yeah.
And his acting was adequate.
Yeah.
Later on, they were making all kinds of statements that he wasn't a very good actor and it wasn't a good fit, and he hadn't learned how to talk to the press yet,
Right.
which was the biggest problem, I think, because he said a couple of things in front of the press that were just like made the guys at Eon Productions just go, "You got to be kidding me!"
Right. Yeah.
I'm in it for the birds and the bread, man. He told Life magazine he was in it for the birds and the bread.
Oh, yeah.
And he was trying to get them to use the Loving Spoonful for the soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
And at this time, Peter Hunt, who was a second unit director on all the Bond films up to this point, this was his directorial debut. He's concerned with getting the action right and getting everything looking right. He doesn't want to worry about an actor who's talking to the press, saying all kinds of crazy things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a pity that Lazenby didn't get to stretch his talent a little bit more.
I agree. I think if he hadn't shot himself in the foot, figuratively speaking, and I think he would have made a really good Bond. And, he would have developed a little bit more and really.
Again, this is a cult film. I mean, it's got a cult following as a Bond film that's different from all the other Bond films. And it's the ski film. I mean, they did ski scenes in other movies, but this was all ski action in this movie. And
Rouge and
it's Diana Rigg. Who's
Diane Rigg,
hands down, I think in everybody's top 3 probably Bond women.
Dame Diana Rigg.
Tracy.
Yeah, and you mentioned Telly Savalas as Blofeld.
No, Mr. Bond. I may surprise you yet. It'll take more than lopping off your earlobes to become a Count Blofeld.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of beautiful women in this. They had the Angels of Death up at Piz Gloria.
Right.
And you have Mark Draco. He was Ilsa Stipat. He was dubbed in the film.
Yeah.
If you want to hear his real voice, you go see Once Upon a Time in the West. I think that's his real voice.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Probably.
Could be wrong, but I think that's his. But anyway.
Yeah.
Tracy's father, who later betrays Bond in one of the books later on that was done by, I think it was Raymond Benson did the one where he betrays Bond because he blames Bond for the death of his daughter.
Right.
Mark Draco.
Yeah.
Head of the Union Course. At the beginning of the film, they set it up where you don't see Bond, driving in his car. You see the cigarette go up to the mouth. You see the glasses go down on the seat. You don't really see him. They're playing the Bond theme to give a nice, juicy Bond theme for you. And he sees Tracy on the beach. She's going to commit suicide. He runs out to save her. He's in a terrible tuxedo shirt with ruffles.
Yeah.
And they just decided, you know what? The crowd is not going to accept him as Connery, so let's just say something crazy at the beginning of the film, so they'll just accept it as a Bond film and we'll move on. And he says, this didn't happen to the other fellow.
Exactly. Yes. And had the great theme song later on sung by Louis Armstrong, all the time in the world.
All the time in the world.
Yeah. And it's really, most of the Bond films up to that point and afterwards really, ended with Bond, making out with the girl, and it's all, happy. They've defeated the villain, and now he's got his reward with the girl. And this one ends with the girl getting killed.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Well, but again, Tilly Masterson is painted gold. She gets killed, for going the Bond way. There she is.
Yeah.
It's been known to happen to cabaret dancers.
You have to leave a better pack. Yeah. And her sister gets killed as well. Jill. Actually, I think that's Jill. No. Yeah.
Tilly.
Tilly.
Yeah, Jill and Tilly. There's two of them. Yeah, the sister. Yeah. She gets killed by Oddjob.
Right. Yeah. So they both wind up
Tilly
dead.
Solms. Yes, Tilly is the one that's killed by Oddjob.
Right.
Jill Masterson is the one that gets killed by Goldpaint.
Getting painted. Yeah. Played by Shirley Eaton.
Yes.
One. I mean, they're killed, but the fact that this is, they've just gotten married, and they're off for their honeymoon. Everything seems wonderful, and then suddenly, bam, she's dead.
They bring her back quite a bit in the later films. There is a headstone that they have at Eon Productions. That is her headstone, Teresa Vincenzo Bond.
Yes.
We have all the time in the world. And Roger Moore visits it at the beginning of For Your Eyes Only.
Right, yeah.
And then he's taken for the helicopter ride by what we suspect is Blofeld. They never say it because, again, Kevin McClory had the rights to Blofeld at the time. They couldn't say it.
Yeah.
And he goes to lay flowers at her grave. It's also mentioned Spy Who Loved Me. She goes, married once, when Triple X is telling him about his past, and he stops her because it's obviously a touchy subject.
Yeah.
All right, you've made your point. Oh, you're sensitive, Mr. Bond. About some things, yes. Again, it's a great film. It's a little on the long side. It's a great film.
But it's better than people give it credit for, I think. And I think the only reason it's kind of like it's because it's not Connery, but.
And Lazenby ended up spoofing Bond in a couple of things. He was on an episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents.
Yeah.
Called Diamonds Aren't Forever. And he was in the Return of the Man from U.N.C.L.E. TV movie as JB, quote unquote. And he's driving an Aston Martin, and he's in a white dinner jacket with a bow tie, and he's very funny in it. He's blowing up cars and looking at the camera and saying, "Shaken, not stirred."
Yeah.
But they did get Connery to come back for Diamonds Are Forever.
Yeah.
$1 million price tag. It was the first $1 million paycheck to an actor for a movie. It was 1971, so that was big money at that time.
Yeah.
And he donated it to his favorite Scottish college. But that's what it took to get him to come back.
Right.
Diamonds Are Forever.
Right. So it was very good. Yeah, they just dumped a bunch of money on his lawn. It's like, are you sure you don't want to come back? Oh, well, maybe one more time.
I think they actually said, what would it take to get you to come back? And he said, you'd have to pay me $1 million. Figuring they wouldn't do it.
And they did.
And they did it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's how the story went down.
Probably.
And he ended up, again, he was so flushed with the fact that they did it, that he gave it to he gave it to charity. He gave it to his favorite college in Scotland.
So we have Joe.
But again, it set the precedent for other actors to get millions of dollars for their roles. Later on, Jim Carrey getting $20 million for playing the Riddler. Blah blah blah. Yeah. So, Diamonds Are Forever. Because it's $1 million price tag, it seems to me that the level, the quality, the paycheck, or not the paycheck, the budget is lower to me.
Yeah, you can definitely tell. Yeah.
But again, it's still a very entertaining movie with Jill St. John, and Charles Gray returns. He was an agent at the beginning of You Only Live Twice. He gets killed right away.
Right.
And then he's playing Blofeld.
Yes.
I do so enjoy our visits, Mr. Bond, however financially painful they may be. You press L, Mr. Bond. The word lobby begins with L. Getting him into the gassing elevator.
Yeah.
And Bruce Glover and Putter Smith playing Wint and Kid.
Yes.
The two gay killers.
Right.
Yeah. We actually talked to Bruce Glover on It's Casual for 2 hours, I think it was. He was talking on the phone. He didn't want to come on camera. And he's Crispin Glover's dad, Crispin actually wore the coat that he wore in Diamonds Are Forever with the wide blue. It was a blue coat with really wide lapels on the David Letterman show. He's always doing weird stuff on the David Letterman show.
Yeah.
But
he's a weird kid.
It ends up with a fight on a oil derrick out at sea. I don't know how they swung that one, but
yeah. Which the writer, I forget who it was. Was it John Mankiewicz? He hated it. He said he hated the finale. He said, "Yeah, I wrote something that was good and taut and
he wanted to fight on top of the Hoover Dam." Yeah,
right. And instead, he said, "Yeah, then we got this interminable thing on an oil rig." Yeah, and it was interminable. Although we got the cute scene with they're switching some tape, stuffing it down she'll say John's bikini bottoms and all that stuff, and
yes,
puts it back, and it's the right one. And
Tiffany, my dear, you're showing a little more cheek than usual.
yeah,
He, of course, is better known for playing the narrator in the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
yes.
Which
I'd
he did
like
a few
to,
years
if
after.
I may, to take you on a.
And ironically, we actually see him in drag in this film. That's how he gets Tiffany. He grabs her and pulls her in the car because she sees him walking to the car in drag, and she sees that it's him, and he pulls her in.
Yeah.
Well, look what the cat dragged in.
Because
she sees Blofeld's cat. That's what it was.
Yeah.
But it's a woman, so she goes over close to the car and they pull her in.
It's a man, baby.
It's a man, baby.
And I
behave.
I think this is the first Bond movie, and I could be wrong. I haven't seen him in a long time, but I think this is the first one where we actually have a car stunt. Where he drives the Mustang, sideways down. Down the Las Vegas Strip.
Well, we had the Aston Martin and Goldfinger.
That had all the
car stuff going on with that.
Yeah, had all the trick things and so on. But as far as
an actual stunt,
yeah, this is the first
car on two wheels.
Yeah.
Well, he actually rolls over a whole bunch of like carriages and stuff too to get away from the police at one point. He does a couple of stunts actually.
Yeah, but that's the one I always remember is driving sideways. Overall, it was okay but it's not
we have the moon buggy. The moon buggy scene.
And the moon buggy, yeah. But I don't know.
Where the hell did that come from?
Yeah.
One of my least favorite John Barry soundtracks, by the way. I just didn't feel he was up to his usual standards. I mean, On Her Majesty's Secret Service is one of my favorite soundtracks from Bond.
Yeah.
And that's John Barry, and it's just a wonderful soundtrack.
Yeah.
But he didn't really get his groove back until The Living Daylights. The Living Daylights was another great soundtrack because he had fresh material to work with, I guess. So he came up with some fresh themes and things. But not saying that I don't like it. It's just not up to his usual standards, I don't think.
But it kind of felt phoned in a little bit. Yeah.
So your favorite is Goldfinger.
My favorite is Goldfinger. I mean,
I got to go with you on that one.
By Shirley Bassey, who I think came back for Diamonds Are Forever, if I remember correctly.
She came back for Diamonds Are Forever and Moonraker.
Right, and Moonraker, yeah.
Unfortunately, the songs didn't do as well on the charts as Goldfinger. Funny thing is, since we're talking about this, Anthony Newley wrote Goldfinger, the song Goldfinger, and was hoping that he was going to be singing it.
Yeah.
Because at that time, Matt Monro had done the song From Russia With Love at the end of From Russia With Love.
Right, yeah. Which has been...
Shirley Bassey came in and killed it. And not all the time, but most times, they'll hire a female singer to do the opening theme.
Yeah.
More times than not.
Yeah. Well,
unless it's like a boy band.
Yeah.
Like Duran Duran or Aha.
Yeah. Tom Jones did the song Thunderball.
Tom Jones did Thunderball.
Yeah.
But there was another song that was supposed to be in that, Mr. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and that was sung by Dionne Warwick. And you can find it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it's killer. I mean, it is a great Bond song. And I don't know why they didn't use it.
Yeah.
But Tom Jones was really, really big at the time. He had his own TV show. He was really big at the time. So
yeah. Yeah. And
all right.
The name Kiss Kiss Bang Bang was one of the Italian directors, and I forget who it was now. Maybe Dino De Laurentiis said that was James Bond. He was Mr. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
He's Mr. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Yeah.
That's not very Russian the way I did it.
Yeah.
He's a Mr. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Yeah, there you go.
Bang a bang.
Yeah. But so I know we already discussed it, but so the final Connery Bond film is Never Say Never Again.
Yeah.
And the title actually came from his wife, and she actually gets a credit for that in the movie, because Connery kept saying, "Oh, no, this is it. I'm never playing Bond again," and he said it twice, after never You Only Live Twice and Diamonds Are Forever. But again, he was intrigued by the idea of doing another Bond movie. McClory convinced him, and actually kind of brought him in by saying, "Hey, well, you can help me write the script, or help the writer write the script." And so he did, and that's how they kind of lured him back. And of course, great cast. And
there's another soundtrack, Octopussy, the Octopussy soundtrack.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's when he got his groove back. Because they told him they wanted a lot of the Bond theme in it because it was competing with Never Say Never Again at the box office.
Right.
So they wanted a lot of Bond theme in it. They wanted it to be very exciting.
Right.
So, yeah.
1983, the year we got two Bonds. Yeah, Moore and Connery. Yeah. Although, of course, the official one, Octopussy, did better at the box office. But I'd love Never Say Never.
I think they did about the same, really, at the box office. Again, everybody wanted to see Connery back, and again, everybody loves Roger Moore, and they like what he does. And so, we got a double dose of Bond,
And then, of course, later on, we got the very unofficial return of Bond with The Rock. Although they don't say it's Bond, it's Bond. Come on.
We're going to Alcatraz.
That's right. He's the old British agent that's been locked up for all these years. Come on. It was James Bond. They could call him something else. It was Bond.
My alias.
That's right.
Beats being a Russian sub-captain.
That's right. I'm a Russian sub-commander with a Scottish accent.
See, now, in that one for Red October, when the camera does that zoom where they change from Russian to, they should have just had everybody speaking in Scottish.
Awesome.
Everybody.
Yeah. Or just speaking, Sam Neill.
It's not just Connery.
Sam Neill's Australian, isn't he? And singing as native Australian.
Where's Jack Ryan? I need Jack Ryan. Blast it. All right. Well, what are we going to talk about next time? we never think about it until the show. What are we going to talk about?
Wait. Now you already did it a little bit when I flashed one of these frames from Goldfinger. You actually did it naturally, but I came prepared because last week you promised me you would do a little bit of radio drama. I came prepared, and I have a few all from Goldfinger because that was both of your favorite movie. So I present to you.
Choose your next witticism carefully, Mr. Bond. It may be your last.
So, Goldfinger, do you expect me to talk?
No, Mr. Bond. I expect you to die. There's nothing you can't tell me that I don't know already.
In that Operation Grand Slam?
2 words you may have overheard in a conversation. They mean nothing to you.
That's it. I get the rest.
Okay. All right. Okay, hold on. There's another one.
But you're forgetting one thing. You're forgetting one thing. If I fail to report, 008 replaces me. Oh, that actually comes earlier. I'm sorry.
Okay, that was brilliant. Now we have another one.
Oh boy.
I'm drawing a blank.
I don't remember. Yeah, that's it. That's all. Well, he seems to be at a loss for words. Don't lose your head.
Now, our meeting is plainly clear to me, Mr. Bond.
This was no accident.
On top. Do you tip your hat to a lady? Oh,
this
geez.
is the brandy. This is the brandy scene.
Oh, God.
Oh, Renee.
um, oh no, that's not fair. He's a legitimate smelter. It's, you know.
Keep going. It's so funny.
I can't remember any of the lines.
I don't remember all the lines here.
Okay, but this is the one
We
you've
just don't know
done.
how he's doing it.
No, this is the one that you guys.
Drinking Dom Perignon below the 15 degrees is like listening to the Beatles without earmuffs.
There you go. There you go.
You nailed that one. You nailed that. Thank you for indulging me. I looked forward to it all week. That was just brilliant.
I'm sorry. I'm glad we didn't gloss over it. We were going to pull the plug. Sorry.
Yeah, I know, but I had it, up my sleeve all this time. I've been waiting. So,
Renee, what should we talk about next week? What kind of movies? Whose kind of movies?
I feel like there was something you guys had mentioned. I'm trying to blank. There was something that you guys both wanted to cover.
Are we going to do the entire Bond canon? Go to Roger Moore?
Should we do another Bond next week? Or should we?
Or save it for later?
Save it.
What are you guys in the mood for?
Love.
How about Tim Burton films?
Oh yeah. Oh,
I was just going to say you could do a director.
Yeah, Tim Burton. Yeah, okay.
Let's talk Tim Burton next time.
Let's do it.
See what we come up with. Pick our 5. I know there's a lot more than 8 movies, so we can pick our top 5.
Yeah, we're gonna actually do a top 5 next. Yeah. All right. Sounds good to me. Tim Burton. Yeah.
All right.
A lot of good visuals. I'll have a lot of cool B-roll. That's gonna be beautiful.
Yeah.
All right.
Please don't make us
fair enough.
No, you clammed up, but you did it naturally. That's the thing. Is like it's performance anxiety because you did it so perfectly when I flashed this one. You did it like, and I was like, oh man, just let it go.
The dinner table scene is like, who remembers lines from that?
Exactly. That was.
But you're supposed to.
You're supposed to riff on it. Just to stump us.
But you're supposed to riff on it. You're supposed to make it.
Actually, okay. Well,
you don't have to do the movie. You can just do crazy shit. Just whatever. Like,
see, this one everybody knows. Yeah.
Everybody knows.
They've seen this scene a zillion times.
And the monkeys
I think my favorite line was from Mad Magazine when they were doing the spoof in Mad Magazine. He said, "Soon you'll be speaking with a very much higher voice, Mr. Bond."
They had a monkeys episode that riffed off of that kind of, and it always traumatized me as a kid. They had like an ice cube and this sword that was going. Well, anyways, and as the ice cube melted, it was supposed to be the same effect, but it was making fun of it.
And who was on the table? McDolland's?
I'm pretty sure it was Michael Nesmith. I'm going to go back and watch it, but I think it might have been Nesmith, but maybe that was just in my brain.
Davy Jones. Yeah. No,
it might have been Davy. I don't know. It's hard to say.
No, I'm Michael Nesmith was usually the fall guy.
Yeah, he's usually the fall guy. Yeah. And another bit of Monkeys trivia is like they asked Davy Jones at the height of his fame, is there anyone famous that you wish you could have a date with? And he said Ursula Andress. So that's how, yeah. And I did look it up about the overdubbing, like when I was backstage.
About 2 feet taller than him.
Yeah. Everybody is 2 feet taller than him. I did look it up, and yes, like the woman who overdubbed, I think it was 13 or 14 of the Bond women. The only thing I was going to say about that, and it's not true because in Hollywood they do this with everyone, but I did want to just say in general, there is like a thing where women tend to be seen as interchangeable, so I just wanted to put that out there. I know that's not really true, but it's just like an interesting fact. I'm wondering if they would have done the same thing with that many male actors, supporting actors in something, and probably they have. So I just I couldn't find any evidence or any controversy about that, but I just wanted to put that out there that women are used to being told that we're interchangeable. So
it happened a lot more to the women in the Bond films than the men.
Yeah.
Did it? Yeah. I would have guessed that, but I didn't know that for sure.
Yeah. The one instance
I think Adolfo Chile was dubbed and Goldfinger was dubbed. Okay. Adolfo Chile was Largo in Thunderball. He was dubbed.
Yeah.
that whoever dubbed him in that movie was working in Bond films. He dubbed Blofeld in For Your Eyes Only, and Eric Kriegler, the Russian Olympic guy. Same voice. I'm auditory. I hear voices.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bond.
And what were you going to say, Manny? You were going to say you remembered something?
Oh, I was just going to say, we're talking about male dubbing. There was the instance with, and I forget his name, the guy who played the Lone Ranger, not Clayton Moore, but there was a movie, The Lone Ranger, where
was it the terrible 70s movie?
Yeah. And the actor apparently had this terrible voice, and they overdubbed him with Dennis Quaid.
Oh, that's interesting.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That is interesting.
I didn't know that.
So anyway.
That's they should have dubbed Tonto too.
So it does happen. It does happen.
Yeah, it definitely happens.
Butch Cavendish.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah, that's the one with the
Lone Ranger.
The William Tell overture. Yeah.
I love that. Okay. Well, next week then we have Tim Burton to look forward to.
Burton, yep.
Yeah, there we go. And to let everybody know that the three of us on screen here, we have something secret in the works and development right now. So you guys are going to be seeing some more of us. Ooh, just to sort of like put a little thing out there. We have something in the works that I'm very excited about. Yes.
We're finally doing porn.
We're finally doing porn, and the pleather.
Dang
it. we finally made
She's
it
already got the pleather ready.
It was something we were interested in. We toyed around it, and finally we were like, we've got the pleather. We've got the toys. We've got the pleather. We've got the whips.
Hey, after well, not you guys, but after what I heard from the general and the major in that last episode of
Roland. That was Roland.
And we got Roland in there. Yeah.
Roland has a whole everybody knows Roland is a sweet boy, but he has some paintings that he does.
Sweet 45-year-old boy.
He has some paintings of me in pleather underwear.
Oh.
Or not me. I guess it's Major Millie. There's something going on. There's
Major Millie Hazard is that's his crush.
Yeah.
And she appears to like him as well. I think we got a romance in the works.
She's shooting her shot. She's got.
There was a little something going on there. I was like, ooh,
and he's hoping to shoot his shot. And maybe one day she'll be in the room with him. Thank you, folks. Hello.
Well, Jagger certainly. Oh, never mind. Shot.
That was a very sexy episode of Big Monster Briefing Room. And brief, emphasis on big briefs.
They were talking about Jagger goo.
Tiger goo, yeah.
There was
monster
a
goo
rocket in the sky. There was all kinds of stuff. By the way, David did ask how many Bond films was Sean Connery in, and I think we never answered it. But
7.
7.
Officially 7. Yes.
Okay. And then John Duncan he had a request for a Martin Scorsese show. At some point, if you guys wanted to do that was his request.
Oh yeah, that would be a good one. That would be an interesting one.
Yeah,
that would be a really, really good one. Yeah. So then David also weighs in about when we were talking about the VOs. He said, I imagine they had some really specific standard for what they wanted the accents to sound like. Apparently, the girl they used so much must have been good at. Yeah. So I can't pronounce her name, but she was known as very professional, and they called her one take whatever, because she would just come in and just do it in one take. And she was also considered very like super sexy with her voice. And so that was another way of, it wasn't just about the accents. It was also to get her sort of, she was known as being like a sensuous person with her voice. And so she would come in and do a great job. And that was another reason, is it made the actors, the actresses, their voices be a little bit more sexy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The steamy scene where Connery meets the girl in From Russia with Love, was used for auditions for Bond. I mean, decades later.
Oh wow!
I mean, I've seen footage of oh my God, Barbara Streisand's guy, Brolin, James Brolin, doing Bond for Octopussy, reading that scene. I've seen Dalton's audition, reading that scene. Yeah. Again, years later, decades later, they were using that same scene.
Wow.
Some think my mouth is too big. It's perfect for me, that is. So anyway, I just want to do one more Connery before we go.
That's why I had the pictures. You could just do a bunch of them. You gotta just do them. You know you want to, Rory. You know you want to.
Did you have that one from Russia with Love?
No, I don't have that one.
Romanova. Tatiana Romanova. That's her name.
Tatiana. Yeah, it's a beautiful name. So yeah, we'll be doing some porn movies, everybody. Do they call them porn movies? Is it called porn movies?
Adult films.
Adult films. We'll be doing that. That's Cosmos is making that turn. We just decided that's where we're going to go with this. You can catch us on OnlyFans.
There you go. Yeah, check out our OnlyFans.
It's behind a paywall, but it's very exclusive content. Anyways, okay.
Is that how we're going to get? Is this how we're going to monetize? I mean, seriously.
This is the monetization.
This is where we got to go to monetize.
This is what all the kids are doing these days. If you can't beat them, join them.
Well, that's scary because this is called Two Guys and Sometimes a Gal.
I'm not always going to be there, guys. You're going to have to just improv on your own sometimes.
I got problems with this.
You sounded like Roland when you said that. You sounded like Roland.
I look like Roland. I got the glasses on.
You channeled you're like, I can see Roland saying, I got a problem with this. If Millie's not going to be there, we got some problems.
I'm becoming uncomfortable.
Do you guys remember Milton? The Milton character? It was a cartoon, like a doodle cartoon. SNL used to run it. It's the famous creator, I forget, but he talked like that, and he would always say, "I'm going to burn the building down." You guys don't remember Milton? Google it after this. You don't.
That sounds like it might be a Bob Smigel, though.
Yeah, it was. I couldn't remember.
Bob Smigel, who does a lot of the cartoons for SNL, and he's responsible for ambiguously gay duo and
ambiguously gay
TV
duo.
Funhouse is what he calls his
that's
cartoons.
What you guys are going to be now that we've got.
They actually did a TV Funhouse show for a season, and he did my favorite cartoons. There's only two of them. Wonder Man, which is like a Superman character, but he's always trying to get laid. He's always trying to get his alter ego laid.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh. That is just hilarious. I love that.
But and Bob Smigel is also Triumph the Insult Dog.
Oh, is he? I didn't know that was him.
Yeah.
That's him?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Does he still do it?
He likes to do cartoons and puppets. He loves puppets too. So
That's
if you ever watch
something
Funhouse,
for me to poop on.
That's all
for me to poop on.
He would have a field day with Roland.
When
is your mom going to pick you up?
I love that. You guys need to come up with a character that's like not a human that we can just bring on the screen.
You want to do a puppet show?
I have ideas. Yeah, like oh my gosh, a puppet show. Why didn't we think of this?
Oh my gosh.
It's brilliant. Manny could draw like a little character, and I could flash him on screen. And
I remember
that'd be so
Troy
great.
Moore did a video with was it Asshole Gremlin or something?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's on TikTok. I gotta
re-upload
that. I'm gonna re-upload that. Yeah, that was so good.
It was
Rory
me doing the voice.
Yeah, how does Rory not have a puppet? I feel like there's puppets in that room somewhere that we can't see. Hello, everybody. All right, everybody. So I want to promote this Sylvia Medrano, Sylvia on the ukulele. She's going to be on Burn It Down with Tom Cheshire tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. That's going to be awesome. A puppet simulated porn show. Yes, John, of course. That's what's coming next week. Tune in. That will be behind the paywall. So make sure Make sure you bring $7. $7 entry to the simulated
in quarters.
Tasmanian quarters, please, with the Queen of England. With the Queen of England
Tasmanian
on it.
change.
Wait, wasn't that Team Police? Wasn't that Team America already?
My favorite thing is when Rory and Manny get together, they laugh for real. Like they laugh hysteric, and it makes me laugh so hard because they know how to push each other's buttons. It's hilarious.
When these stamps get together, it's just hilarious.
It's just hilarious. I just love it. When the boys are together, they do boy stuff. I don't understand it, but I love it. What did I just walk into? I don't know who this is, but
that's what I like is when you do the thing like Stefan.
Looks so Japanese.
You cover your mouth.
Give me more Japanese.
He's good. I need like a fan, like one of those fans like I hide behind, like
I don't want you to see me laugh.
What's a Japanese accent? Rory knows. What is a Japanese accent? You always do it in the kaiju films.
My friend used to always make the joke. He lives in Japan. His name is George. He used to make the joke all the time that Chinese women just are scary when they talk. They sound angry. He goes, but the Japanese girls are always so demure and say,
"Oh, arigato, oh, konnichiwa. Oh, you're so very handsome."
Yeah, it's very babyish, right? The geisha girls are very, but nothing
strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, then you get the lolly girls and the Hawaii girls. Yeah. That's why all their anime, all the girls look like they're 12.
Yeah, they have like the TikTok in China. Rory, you can confirm this. I don't know, but like the TikTok in China, like your wife could tell you. I don't know, but they have a mandatory filter that's like an anime. It makes you look like an anime character, and it just comes on naturally when you go to film in TikTok. So everybody on the Chinese TikTok just looks like an anime character, and that's considered really adorable.
I'm most concerned about the filter that makes you look younger, like the teen filter.
Oh yeah,
because people are just looking at themselves, like the mirror in Harry Potter. They're never gonna go away. I want to be young again. I want to be young forever. Just you and me.
I'm gonna use that filter on our next show. So I look like my teenage self.
Your teenage self. Oh gosh, I used that teen filter one time, and it was. Well, you would. It's just the beard, If I had that beard, it's just the beard. Take the beard off, you will look like a teenager again.
Yeah,
you absolutely.
And I've seen General Howitzer use the teen filter, which was really weird.
Yeah, that was really weird. That was.
He couldn't grow a mustache.
They don't allow any facial hair.
Teen Howitzer.
Yeah,
Teen
and
Howitzer.
I guess
it's out there. You can find
Jonathan Duncan is confirming the Chinese thing, and he said when he first went to his wife's place and met her family, he thought they were fighting the whole time, but they were just. I'm assuming that means she was Chinese. I think that's what he said.
For the longest time, I thought my wife was yelling at me all the time, and she wasn't.
It's just a normal voice.
That's just the way I talk.
It's just the way. The Ukrainian way is like always we do a lot of like shush. Everything is sh. Like there's a lot of sh in everything. So everything's very soft. So if you see like a Ukrainian woman, she's always talking very like everything is soft. Everything's soft. Faja. That's a little like the Germans do that too. Faja. I have Faja issues.
Austin Power movies.
Oh gosh.
But there's only 3.
If you do the Austin, trust me,
maybe we'll do Michael Myers movies. We'll do that.
Do Michael Myers
because
he's been in everything.
But those are going to be in the top 3.
The Madonna movie, the Wayne's World movie with Madonna in it. That's hilarious. You guys remember that, right? When they played Truth or Dare with Madonna.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think
part 2, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was part 2, but he's been in everything.
It's got Christopher Walken in it.
You should do Christopher Walken movies.
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff.
So there's going to be a lot of this kind of thing going on,
Well, that was scary. I love the pause.
Carrera.
He keeps you on your toes.
Hawaii.
That's right.
I think he's out of Wahoo.
So
what accent is that? Like, where is he from? Why does he talk like that?
He's from New York, I think.
So what is that?
But he's just got that strange cadence
weird.
to his, how he talks.
That's how he talks.
Yeah. Well, it's worked for him. You got to be different.
I'm telling you, fellas, I got a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell.
Oh man, everybody goes up to him on the street and says cowbell. He
Yeah.
hates that now.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I don't think the
My
kids
favorite
know what
SNL
that is
thing
anymore.
that he did was the Colonel Angus.
I just quoted Rory. I literally just quoted that to someone like 3 hours ago.
I don't know nothing about no Colonel Angus.
No, the best is he comes up on the porch and they say, "Oh, Colonel Angus, it's so good to see your sweet shiny face today. Your countenance is just perfectly shiny as always."
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
It's so amazing to see you with your chin up, Colonel Angus. So usually your chin is down, but today you look a little...
I'm going south.
How south are you going, Colonel Angus? How deep do you want to go?
One great line after the other.
It's just boom, boom, boom. It was written by
and we all think we're reading about the porn.
Yeah. That was written. That
There it goes. You got it. You did it.
Yeah, I feel like it's like my attempt. You're right. It's the geisha girl. Like I'm gonna get a fan.
I love walking in Memphis. No, I like walking in.
I was walking
in Dirt. Joe Dirt. You're talking all wrong. You're talking my boy all wrong.
I love that. I haven't seen that in forever. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
But you guys should do Scorsese though. At some point, not next week, but I just mean.
Well, maybe
next week we're doing Tim Burton. But okay, I'll write that down.
Yeah, just write it down because we love our Tasmanian devil, Jonathan Duncan. That's who requested that. Yeah, just love it.
Man.
There's so many great things.
Do not confuse Tasmanians with Australians and with New Zealanders.
Talk about Martin Scorsese.
They are unique.
They are
very unique.
They're very proud.
All right, call Bobby De Niro. Call Joe Pesci. Have him come down. We're gonna talk. We're gonna talk about this next movie.
Yeah. What, am I a clown to you? Am I funny to you? Funny how?
I love that.
That's great. We're gonna put that in the movie.
That's great.
Bobby, you want some lines? You want some lines in this movie?
Okay.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. Okay.
I just love hanging. This is like my life. It's so great because I'm just entertained. I don't have anything to add. I'm just entertained. I'm just sitting here eating my caramel popcorn.
Caramel popcorn.
Caramel popcorn. Yeah.
I do think they have caramel popcorn. I haven't been to the theaters in a very long time, but I do recall them having that as an option.
I just remember the toxic
for
waste
the diabetics.
of butter.
Yeah, way too much butter. They just keep going. It's like, yeah.
All righty.
All right, everybody. See everybody at 9:00. All right. Good night.